In December of 2022, the federal government announced new ambitious goals for EVs in Canada. At that time, Ottawa announced that by 2026, 20% of new vehicles sold would have to be zero emission, with a 60% mandate by 2030 and all new vehicles sold being zero emission by 2035. And while there are plenty of consumers who want to buy an EV, according to our next guest, there have been some bumps in the road. Joining us now to discuss consumer demand for EVs and the hurdles that Canadians are facing is Fin DePencier, journalist with Canadian Affairs. Fin, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, David.
So I want to start with the wear and tear of EVs versus conventional cars. How do these EVs stack up in comparison?
Right. So if we're talking wear and tear, i.e. the longevity of the vehicle, EVs actually stand up quite a bit better. And that's because they have less complicated internal components without the need to service the transmission and the engine. There's going to be less wear on the brake system and other important internal systems of the vehicle. That being said, EVs are relatively new technology, and they have their own problems related to charging and really the battery is the main one. So they have their own problems, and I think aside from wear and tear, the biggest problem that people find is when something does go wrong with their EV, it's really hard to find somewhere that will service it for you.
And so what are some of those reliability issues that you've seen from your reporting? What are some of the major kind of sticking points that those who own an EV are experiencing?
Well, the biggest one is related to charging infrastructure. So this is interesting. I was speaking with somebody who does sales at BMW, and he was explaining that their cars use a certain charger. I think it's called CCS. I forget what it stands for just right now, but when people who own a BMW EV need to charge their vehicle, they're going to be going to a charging station that's often owned by an independent owner of this. So that whoever owns the charging station is responsible for setting the standard for that. And I think most people are familiar with the experience of buying an iPhone charger at a gas station, and it just doesn't work because the iPhone is manufactured differently than this third-party manufacturers manufactured the charger, and it's the same thing with EVs. So he was saying that sometimes people will go to one of these third-party charging stations, and the charger just won't work, and so that's because of that, BMW is switching to Tesla's North American charging standard, and it looks like Tesla's standard is going to be adopted by most EV manufacturers. But that's just one example of the charging being a huge issue.
You mentioned servicing in EVs. When something goes wrong, obviously it has to be fixed. How accessible are these service stations for repairs? How long are people waiting for maintenance?
Well, I was speaking with one guy who owns a Tesla. He lives in Ottawa, and there's only 3 Tesla servicing stations in the whole city. And he said that he, I think, dropped the car off on October 29th, and he hasn't gotten it repaired yet. So that's a huge issue. If you crash your EV, you can't just take it into the local garage because there's an entirely different set of components that mechanics just aren't used to. And so it has to be serviced by the manufacturer itself, by the automaker. And the infrastructure just simply isn't there yet. It's going to take some time.
And obviously a big thing here is charging. For people with conventional cars, they always know where the closest gas station is. Are public charging stations enough? Do consumers need to have access to a charging station at home? Can anybody install a charging station at their home?
Yeah, so anybody can if they have the money and if their home is amenable to that. So this sales guy at BMW is telling me the first thing he tells clients who are interested in getting EV is, do you have access to the electrical infrastructure that would allow you to install a charger at your home? Because if you don't have a charger at your home and then a charger at work or wherever you're commuting to every single day, you can run into the anxiety of not knowing how you're going to get home.
Yeah.
And he said that you don't want to have that anxiety of having to tow your car back to the dealership if
Yep.
you can't get it charged. Now, that being said, if you're living in the city,
I don't mean to cut you off, but we do have to go to break.
go ahead.
Thank you very much, Fin.